Okay. This one is from a husband's perspective, who's wondering if he is being selfish for wanting sex because his wife is showing a low level of interest or none at all. So his question is, my wife and I just had our first baby a couple of weeks ago. Before the baby's birth, we hadn't had sex for close to 2 or 3 months. So I can say it's probably been about 4 or 5 months without sex. I fully understand the need not to have sex soon after childbirth. But even before my wife got pregnant, she didn't really show interest to have sex sometimes. Sometimes I had to even ask for sex. Is it normal for women and wives not to be interested in sex? Sometimes I am afraid to bring the sex issue up because it may seem as if I do not consider her needs. Am I selfish?
This is an excellent question, and I think so many people have the same situation. Whether a baby is coming or not, where just over time, one person's desire in sex just really goes down, while the other person stays constant or even increases, right? So this desire discrepancy is the biggest issue a lot of couples run into in their marriages. And this is what I really address head on in my program. Now, I wouldn't say it's normal or abnormal for your wife to not be interested in sex, as he asked, right? He's like, "Is this normal that she's
Hmm.
not interested in sex?" I I reframe this a bit. We use those terms, but I want you to think about it a little differently. We never just have sex. Humans don't just have sex. We always participate in a meaning. It's impossible to separate meaning from sex. So, a better question to ask is if you can get inside your wife's head, what meanings are at play when we do engage sexually? And are those meanings that are pleasant for her? Are those meanings that are exciting to her? For example, if the meaning in her head is, if I don't have sex with my husband, he's going to stray. Or this is what good wives do. They need to give their husband sex. Or if I have sex with him, then he won't be pouty or angry. Do you see how those are all meanings that are not about her own pleasure? They're not about her own replenishment. They're all about in service of someone else. That's not a meaning we like to participate in. It's not a fun meaning. So sometimes, though, it's good judgment to be low desire in marriage. If I'm married to someone and they are pouty around sex, they feel entitled to sex, it would actually be good judgment for me to not be interested in sex because those aren't meanings that are favorable or enjoyable to participate in. So we can't just blanket say, she should have more desire because the meanings that are in operation have a great deal to do with desire levels. I also want to say it's not the baby. Well, to an extent. Your wife just gave birth, that's pretty incredible, and her body will need time to heal, and if you're breastfeeding or you're not sleeping well, there's gonna be a lot of times sex is the last thing on your mind, and that's perfectly fine. But, that being said, there are many women who actually really like sex, and they kinda miss not having sex during the postpartum recovery period, and they look forward to the time they can get back to it because for them, they find sex so replenishing. It's a time they feel really loved on and doted on, and for once to be served instead of them serving someone else. So it's not the baby, but maybe the problems persisted, and because of the baby, it's exacerbated, it's highlighted the problem that has already been going on. It just magnified it more. So it's a gift. It's a gift in that you can now see the dynamic that may have been more hidden before.
Can I just touch on, you said like many women like sex and look forward to getting back to it. And I just want to caution this husband here to not compare his wife to those women in this instance. Yes, some women really do love getting back to sex and really desire it. And I love that you shared that to show that there's no normal when it comes to sex and postpartum and all of those things. What's normal for you is normal for you. It doesn't really translate to any other couple or person. So I just wanted to add in to be cautious, not to compare her to those who have that higher desire and then apply external pressure because she doesn't have the desire that you think she should have because other women do. If that makes sense. Does that make sense, Dan?
Makes
Did
sense.
that come out
Yeah.
okay?
Be careful of comparison.
Yes.
Now, I don't think it's selfish to advocate for something that's better for your marriage. So in the back of this husband's mind is like, "I want it, but I know she doesn't want it. So if I ask for sex, if I bring it up, does that mean I'm not being considerate of her needs?" And maybe it's not being considerate, and you should check yourself on that. But maybe it is being considerate because of the gifts that sex can bring to a marriage union, as long as the meanings at play are positive meanings. So you got to really examine the meanings, the scripts, the ideas and thoughts and beliefs that she has around sex and the ones that you have and how they overlap or collide in this situation.
Yeah, I like what you said that it's not selfish to advocate for something that's going to help better your marriage. Desiring sex with your spouse is natural. However, it's possible that the way that you come across could show that you aren't considering her needs and what she's going through. So, being able to step back and be like, okay, do I want sex for the right reasons? Is it a goal of wanting to connect with his spouse, with his wife? Because he loves her? Or is it he just really wants to have an orgasm right now, and the way to do that is to have sex with his wife? Because those 2 meanings behind sex and the purpose that they serve, one is going to create more connection and desire for both spouses than the other one. So, I guess just giving both of yourself grace because you welcomed a new child in, and that's a lot of adjusting for both of you. And just the last thing I want to share is there's so many ways to connect sexually that don't require intercourse. And so maybe just find out ways that you can connect that while you're working on building desire and meaning of finding ways to kiss or touch or be connected to each other that don't put the pressure on your wife to just move straight to intercourse because there's so many fun ways to connect that aren't just goal oriented intercourse and orgasm.
Caroline, I love that. We say that a lot, that there's more than one ways to connect sexually than just intercourse. But we never say what those other things are.
Yeah.
What are some of your favorite ways? That's a very personal question. What are
Well,
examples of other people's favorite ways to connect sexually that don't involve intercourse?
yeah, there's different ways that you can connect physically through touch, whether that's kissing, making out, kissing each other's bodies and different parts of each other's bodies, intimate massages, non sexual massages. There's so many ways that I've heard people love to connect. Showering together, rubbing each other down with body wash and a loofah. Like, there's so many oral sex, actually, even. I don't know how I missed that one. I know people love that one. So, those are just the ones that come off the top of my head. What about you, Dan? What are some ways you've heard people love to connect?
I'll speak for myself, but one of the great turning points in my own sexual relationship with my wife was when we learned how to enjoy arousal for arousal's sake. That arousal
Mm,
didn't mean it had to finish or lead to orgasm. So
I love that.
we can be highly aroused and stay highly aroused without it turning into a one or both people must end in an orgasm. So
I love that.
it's about learning how to relax into the arousal, learning to enjoy the arousal and not be overcome by the arousal. So do arousing things, very arousing things. That's really connecting. This might be TMI, but this is my podcast, so here it goes. When we first learned this principle, we went on a getaway, just the two of us. And to have no kids and a weekend to ourselves, we're just so excited. And we had this idea that we're going to have a lot of sex that weekend, but I wasn't allowed to ejaculate. That was our rule. So, and we did. We got to our destination. First thing we did is dropped our pants and we went for it, but we stopped just shy of me ejaculating. Now, she could have as many orgasms as she wanted. But what this did is it forced us to really focus on the arousal of our weekend and not so much these peaks and valleys that orgasm gives. And we made love so many times that weekend. In fact, it felt like just one long weekend of lovemaking instead of like distinct starts and stops. It kind of all bled into one. Even though we're doing lots of other fun activities too, outdoors and hiking, cycling, things like that too, that we really enjoy. But there's just this pervasive feeling of we can enjoy arousal and be in a highly aroused state and stay there instead of it having to mean something's wrong if we don't like take this over into orgasm. So that's one way we have found to connect sexually.
I love that. That sounds like a fun trip you guys went on.
If you have a question, you can go to getyourmarriageon.com, click on resources and anonymous question. That comes to me, and we will do our very best to address those in upcoming podcast episodes, email newsletters, on our Instagram or Facebook groups, wherever you can find us. Thank you for watching this video. Don't forget to subscribe, like, or even comment below, and go see what other wonderful videos we have that will help you strengthen your marriage intimately.